We're talking with Alex Osterwalder. You've got two new books, one's out and one's coming out. Tell us about it.
One is actually being launched today, and it's called Testing Business Ideas. So it's the third book in the Strategyzer series, and we wrote it together with David Bland, who's the lead author. And it's all about a library of experiments. How do I go from idea to real business case, and how do I test that? So give a great process, but then we show with 44 experiments, how can you do more than the typical kind of interview, survey or landing page? How do you get sophisticated at this? That's the first book.
So that's 44 examples of experiments or 44 real life examples?
44 different experiments, and they're illustrated with some examples. So 44 different ways to test your ideas and create evidence that you're actually working on a good idea.
Yeah. That's great. And each testing method is applicable for some situation.
So it really depends what you're testing. Are you testing desirability to customers have that job pain or gain? Are you testing feasibility? Can we actually build that? Are we testing viability? Can we make more money from it than we spend? So there's different types of experiments for different contexts. Depending on where you are in your innovation journey, you'll have to test different things. And again, we see a lot of companies starting to do this, but they can get a little bit better at it. So we thought, what if we provide a library, it's inspiration to be a bit more creative of how you test. Interviews are not enough.
And it's also like a how-to manual, so it describes how you do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a field guide. We call it a field guide. So it's really a how-to for people who do this. So not necessarily for senior leaders who have to make decisions based on this stuff, but the how-to. For the more senior leaders, we decided to create another book, which is called The Invincible Company.
And that's coming out later?
So that's coming out next May in 2020, and that is...
It's like half a year from now.
That's half a year from now, but that's the publishing industry, right? We're finishing it up now, and we have 4 designers working on it full-time, very beautiful visual book, and it actually has content for senior leaders. How do I make investment decisions with innovation portfolios? Companies like Nestle, all the way down to the smaller, medium-sized company. But it also has new content for doers. So we came up with a library of business model patterns to help people think, beyond product, technology, and service. How can they create better business models? How can they shift from products to services, from selling to platforms, all that kind of stuff. So a lot on managing the invincible company. How do I create that? Constantly reinvent yourself. And then very concrete stuff with how do you build better business models.
Can you give some first hints on what's in the book? How do I manage this? How do I lead innovation?
So first tip is sign up to our blog, strategyzer.com/blog, because we post a lot of it. We put it out there so people can get sneak peek or can get a preview. But basically, when you want to create an invincible company, you need to do 2 things. One is you need to design better business models than your competitors. Not just better products. Everybody has to deliver great products, but better business models. That's one. But every business model expires. So from day one, you actually need to think of how are you going to reinvent yourself? How am I going to create the business model for the next 5, 10, 50, or 100 years? So you constantly have to reinvent yourself. Now we know that from companies like Amazon. They constantly have a culture of day one. They're always obsessed by dying, by going out of business, and that's what keeps them alive, and that's why they constantly innovate. So better business models is one, constantly reinventing yourself is the second thing, and you do that by creating a business model portfolio. So the new book is all about business model portfolios.
So that you have multiple business models and keep reinventing by adding.
Yeah, exactly, and you might say, oh, but that's just for large companies. Well, it turns out, even once you start to establish a company, you probably have a product portfolio. You start to have a brand portfolio pretty quickly, and then very quickly have a business model portfolio. So you need to manage your existing portfolio of businesses, but at the same time, that I think companies are not too bad at that. At the same time, you need to create an innovation pipeline of new projects that could be the winners of tomorrow. And that's the key word here is could, because you can't pick the winners of tomorrow. You actually need to invest in a broad series of projects. If you're a large company, that should be 200 projects. If you're a small company, that can be 4 or 10 projects. But you need to work today on what will change the game tomorrow. Because if you're not starting today, it's too late and you might actually go out of business. And we're seeing that all the time.
And the way you use the business model canvas, is that still the same from a few years ago?
Yeah, so some of the basics tools don't change. So the way we look at it always is we try to solve one job after the other. Still need the business model canvas to shape your idea. Right? You see the value proposition canvas to shape your value proposition. Then you test it. That's why we created a new book, testing business ideas, so you can actually do that better. But then there's another problem, which is, okay, how do I do that in a larger context? So it's not that the other tools are obsolete, it's just that they're not enough. So there's, business is complex. There are a lot of things you need to get right. So it's not like one tool is going to get everything done. You don't do heart surgery with a Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife does a lot of things, but it definitely doesn't allow you to do heart surgery. You do heart surgery with several different tools after you understood how the body works, physiology, anatomy, and then you practice doing that. It's the same in innovation. We need several tools. We need to practice it and get good at it, because innovation and entrepreneurship is different from management. Both are business, but managing a 10 million, 100 million, or billion euro business is completely different from starting a business or innovating, going from 0 to 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. That's a different ballgame. So guess what? We need to use different processes, different metrics, sometimes the same tools, but we use them in a different way. So we need to become innovation surgeons.
Do you have one piece of advice of someone who's starting to be an innovation surgeon?
Yeah, go ahead and practice. And you're not going to get it right the first time. Think of it like a doctor or a student, a medical student who wants to become a surgeon. It's a pretty long path. It's very hard. You don't learn this overnight. And don't call yourself an innovation surgeon just because you've done a couple of workshops and you've done 2-3 projects. You become an innovation surgeon by really earning the scars, right? And that's, the great innovators today, the great entrepreneurs, they've gone through several projects until they really can say, I know how this works.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.